My name's Rebecca Vasmant. I'm a DJ, a record collector, a music fan, and more recently a bit of a broadcaster because we've been doing these radio sessions on Worldwide FM. Sounds a bit weird saying that, but yeah. My involvement in that is someone who helps bring people together and who curates and who supports everyone's music and who does everything that I can with the platforms that I have and the contacts that I have made through just playing records, I guess, to try and bring the whole thing to light a bit more and to try and help the musicians here get a bit more exposure, I guess. That's kind of what I've been hoping to do with it all. I think the Glasgow music scene's amazing. It's always historically been very, very strong for arts. So whether it be, you know, every different type of creative art, it's an amazing melting pot of creatives that all work together and talk to each other and collaborate. And I think that's just because of the geographical size of the city, that everyone's so open and nice and supportive of each other. It's historically had a lot of, in the club culture anyway, being a very techno and house, well, techno orientated city with the likes of Soma Records releasing Daft Punk and the Sub Club and all that kind of thing. It's got a very strong electronic music scene, but I think what started to happen recently over the last few years is jazz has kind of become more of a music for dance floors again, and young people are coming out to see jazz gigs in a party setting, not just in a sat down gig, and that change is what I think is making it all happen. And I think that's coming from the musicians that are graduating from the RCS, or Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. They are all coming in with fresh kind of ears, so they've got tastes in different things like hip hop, house, funk, Afrobeat, you know, Ethiopian music, whatever it may be. Jazz is merging with all those types of music because of the young musicians that are coming through and starting to make their own music with influences from that stuff in it as well. And it's not just straight up, you know, jazz music. It's combined with other things, and I think that's what makes it accessible to young people to want to go out and listen to when they're having a party. And it's it's been a very slow process, but now I feel like we're at a really good point with that now, and it's moving forward, so it's exciting. I've heard people say the phrase like jazz was dead and now it's not, but I do think I disagree with that, because jazz has never went away. It's just not been commercially popular or popular with certain age groups or in certain circles. I think that all the work that people like Giles Peterson and other people in London, they have worked extremely hard to get to a point where there's this amazing melting pot of just people who are hungry for hearing and seeing that music, you know? Like only a couple of nights ago I went to see Gary Barks, who's an old absolute legend of jazz, and most of the crowd were young people. If we put Gary Barks on in Glasgow, I'm not sure if it would go down the same, but I think, personally, I think it's all influence from outside, and people are picking up the influence. I think in regards to inside Glasgow, it's just been a succession of certain people who have done things like, so for example, Graham Costello's done his Strata residency in Block, right? So that's really been a key thing. Dukes used to have a jazz night every Thursday where people would go and jam, and at the time, Harry and Graham and all that, who were just on the session there, they all were still in uni and they would go and jam there and things like that. So, you know, they all kind of came through and met each other through Dukes. I think the Blue Arrow opening in Glasgow has been quite pivotal as well and important, because it's a jazz specific venue and it's kind of allowed a place for people that are touring outside of Scotland to come and play, and obviously local acts get put on support, things like that. So I think that's been really important. Also, I do think that the Era Suite event that I've been running has kind of been a bit important as well, and obviously the radio show that I've been doing and things like that. I would like to think that they've helped, but yeah, it's just been a you know, kind of progression of lots of things that have added up to us being at this point now, and it's fun. I think it's going to continue to develop. I hope it's not going to fizzle out, but I really don't think that's going to happen. I do, however, I am aware of the fact that music goes in cycles and fashions. So personally, I'm grabbing everything with all my might at the moment because I've never personally been booked so much for playing jazz records ever. And I am aware that that could end, but I'm hopeful that it won't end. So I think it's going to continue to grow. I think it's going to continue to get stronger. So like Strata have been signed to a London label, Nimbus Sextet have been signed to a big label. There's a new compilation that's going to be released of all Scottish jazz that's going to be amazing. That's going to obviously help stuff. I think it's going to continue to grow. I think it's going to hit a point where people hopefully see Glasgow as a competitor for the London jazz scene. That's what I hope. With everything that we've all done, all of us, all musicians, me, promoters, venues, everything that we've all put in, I hope it's, because I think the important thing is we've all teamed up, we've all put our heads together, we've all worked together, not against each other, and I think that's why it's kind of become what it is now, because we've just all worked as a team to make this happen, and that's exactly what happened in London as well. So I think that it's very similar to pretty much any other city in the world. It's very hard to make a living as a creative. I think that it's funny because I've had this conversation with people a lot. I make my living through playing records, so I'm a DJ, right? I also produce and do a radio show, but my main income and the way that I kind of make my living is through DJing. And I know that DJs are spoiled in the sense of how much they can earn from that, because I know that musicians, it's a very different thing. So me personally, I struggled for a lot of years while I kind of worked my way to the point that I'm at now, in which I'm super happy to be at this point in it. You know, it's amazing, I'm happy, it's all been a crazy couple of years, to be honest, in an amazing way. But I'm very aware of the fact that there's quite a big divide in what musicians are earning and what DJs are earning. And the simple fact is that you can charge, say, X amount a head for a club, for an electronic DJ, and sell that club out. It's not the same with jazz. And London might be there, but Glasgow's not there. So there is still a lot to be worked on. I think in regards to the music that's being made, musicians that are forming bands, that's all super, super positive and exciting. But I think in regards to making a living from that, either from the side of being a promoter or being a club that exclusively promotes jazz, or being a musician that exclusively plays jazz, we're still at a very young stage with that, and it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of growth to maybe get to the point where it's easy to make a living out of that. But I don't think anyone finds it easy. I mean, I know a lot of musician friends who live in London, and they are perceived by a lot of the guys in Glasgow as being super successful, and they're touring the world and all that kind of thing, but they're in the same position. They're still renting flats and they're still flat sharing, and I know that London costs a lot more to live in than Glasgow does, but you know, it's all relative really, it's all subjective, and I think that's quite a complex question to answer, and it depends who you are, it depends how you've got where you are, it depends what scene you're in, it depends who you play for, it depends, there's so many variables, there's no easy answer to that. But I think in regards to electronic music culture and jazz, it's two completely separate things in regards to how easy it is to make a living. Yeah. I think that it's very widely regarded as one of the best cities in Europe for house and techno. The Sub Club is obviously infamous all over the world. Wherever you go, people know the Sub Club, and that's amazing. We've got so many amazing, talented producers coming through making house and techno. I mean, I won't even go through all the list, there's so many of them, but they are rightly, you know, doing really well, rightly so. I think in regards to jazz, and this is exactly what the fight that I guess I've been trying to work on, is to let the world see that we've actually got quite a good scene here for jazz. I think it's still very young, it's still very fresh, it's still forming, it's still emerging, and I think one of the reasons why it's so exciting is because it's so young and so fresh that week to week to week to week it's changing. There's new bands forming, people join bands, people are making new music, people are creating, they're coming, you know, people are constantly coming to the conservatoire, so there's new jazz musicians that are kind of graduating all the time, so it's constantly emerging, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's so exciting for us inside Glasgow. But I think that outside of Glasgow, not as many people are aware of what's happening here jazz-wise, and that's what I've tried to change, I guess.